Hey everyone, Duke here, and I don't usually make build videos, but this Warlock build has been so good and so fun that I was just inspired to have to make one. So let's talk about this build and why it is so strong. So there were a couple big changes this season that are really kind of pushing this build into being as strong as it is. So the first big change this season was with Geomag stabilizers, and these were, very strong for a while, then they got nerfed. But couple things got changed this season with Geomags. First of all, the ionic traces that you get while using Geomags used to give you 2% super. It's going to be giving you 7% super now, which is a huge, about 3.5 times the amount of super energy that you're getting from those ionic traces while using Geomag stabilizers. And not only that, but they added a new perk with Geomag stabilizers to kind of tie into the new bolt charge verb for this season and for going into the future with ARC, in that you're going to be able to sprint while you're near max bolt charge to top off the rest of your bolt charge and get to that max 10 stacks of bolt charge. And bolt charge, if you don't already know, is an incredibly strong new thing that basically ARC is just able to do, where you're going to create a big lightning bolt in the area once you get to that 10 max stacks and then expend the bolt charge with a ARC ability. Now, the first place I started really using this build was in the contest first encounter of Sunder Doctrine, but I've been using it all over the place since then because it's just really good. Anywhere that you basically want to be kind of moving through enemies and being able to kill lots of enemies and getting your super up really often is going to be really good. It's not the most passive build, like it's definitely something you want to be playing reasonably aggressive with, and we're going to talk about a couple things that you can make it even more aggressive if you'd like. Again, there's going to be some adjustments you can make depending on your playstyle, but it is a really good aggressive build. It's a very good just like slay out everything and play into the enemies and play aggressively with that setup. Another big change with ARC this season is with Amplified, and basically when you become Amplified, you're going to have two things. First thing, combatants are going to be less accurate against you, so they're going to miss more shots. That's going to make you survive more. Second thing, you get 15% damage resistance while you're Amplified, which obviously also makes you survive more. So that's another thing with ARC, like some of the other builds with Solar, having Restoration and Cure, Void having Devour, Prismatic having some of those things built in as well, and just other ways to survive. ARC has never really had the best ways to kind of heal and survive, but with this just kind of built-in way of having more damage resistance and ability to basically dodge shots, I guess, if you want to consider it that way, with enemies missing you more, going to make ARC a lot stronger within that as well. Now, as for weapons, you can kind of go with a lot of different things. You are going to need ARC weapons for this build. That is going to be for sure important. But I've been really enjoying Delicate Tomb with this build. The main thing with this is going to allow you to be able to create ionic traces with the weapon on top of other ways that we're creating ionic traces. Basically, if you get a final blow with this weapon, you have a chance to generate ionic traces. If you kill a powerful foe, or guardians, but we're not really talking about PvP here, you will be always generating ionic traces. And as we talked about a minute ago, Geomags are giving you 7% super per ionic trace that you create. So with this weapon in particular, you're going to be able to create a lot of ionic traces and get those supers really fast. Again, other ARC weapons will also work, but this one has been a pretty big staple for me for this build. Now, as for the subclass itself, we're obviously going with Chaos Reach because we're using Geomag stabilizers. The abilities are pretty up to you in terms of which Rift you'd like to use. I think Healing Rift is probably the play. Jump is completely up to you. The melee is also up to you. I personally like Chain Lightning. I feel like it does allow you to get a little bit more jolt, and if things do get on you, it kind of gives you a little bit of like just quick AoE melee that you can do. But again, any melee will work. Ball Lightning is also fine, and any grenade will also work. Again, Pulse Grenade I think is kind of just thought of as the best grenade for ARC, but any grenade is an option as well. Now, as for aspects, we definitely want to be running Electrostatic Mind. This is going to allow you to create more ionic traces. Again, this build is very much built around ionic traces, and also will give you that amplify that we were just talking about every single time you collect an ionic trace. So we're going to have very high uptime with getting ionic traces, and pretty much, maybe not permanent, but pretty close to permanent uptime on that amplified, which gives us the 15% damage resistance, and that the combatants will be less accurate against me. So that's giving survival straight up pretty much just through this, and also abilities to get more supers, which again, that's a huge portion for killing things too. Now, the second aspect is pretty much up to you. You can really run any of the other three. You can run Arc Souls, you can run Lightning Surge, or you can run the new Ionic Sentry. They're all going to kind of do different things. Arc Souls are going to allow you to play a little bit more safely into your Rift, but also allow you to kind of take your Arc Souls with you when you're going in and being more aggressive. Also, again, we're going to be amplified very, very often, if not basically permanently. So those arc souls are going to be even more strong with being amplified. Again, you can also run the new Sentry. This is going to allow you to, this is going to be up a lot. You're going to have a ton of this, again, especially with having that ability to be running arc weapons, having a lot of arc abilities, having a lot of supers. This is going to be a very high uptime with this build, so you can definitely run Ionic Sentry. And then the most aggressive option is definitely Lightning Surge. This has also been buffed this season. I would say this one's a little bit more harder to pick up. Like, it's definitely something that you want to play with a little bit. It's going to be, I think, honestly, maybe even has the highest upside, but definitely requires a little bit more knowledge of when to use it. Because if you're just like running in and meleeing things and like you're just like right up on top of things, that's going to be a little bit dangerous in some cases. But if you do kill everything and you're able to get some of the stuff jolted and keep those supers up, it's going to have a potential for really, really high upside. So again, any of the three will work. I've personally been liking Arc Souls. I feel like it gives, again, a little bit more survivability with kind of pairing with the Rift and giving you those souls to kind of help you out a little bit, especially against some of the enemies in the new dungeon with like bats and stuff. I feel like Arc Souls are just really nice against the bat enemies because they will track them for you. And again, at least for me, hitting those bats sometimes can be a little bit annoying. So I like the Arc Souls, but any of the three can work. Again, I think Lightning Surge is very interesting as an aggressive option. Now, as for fragments, 3 of the 4 are going to be kind of required. The last slot is going to be up to you. So the first one we definitely want to use is Spark of Ions. This is going to allow you to get, again, even more Ionic Traces anytime we defeat a target with Bolt Charge, which we're going to have quite often, or defeat a jolted target, which we're going to have multiple ways to do that as well. We are going to create another Ionic Trace, which again, going back to the start, we're getting 7% super anytime we get an Ionic Trace. So that's going to be a huge portion of our build. Now, skipping the second one, because that's going to be the kind of open one, but here, any arc weapon final blow has a chance to create an Ionic Trace just straight up, super duper nice, and will also give us Bolt Charge anytime we collect an Ionic Trace. So this is, again, Bolt Charge and Ionic Traces, everything we're doing with this is kind of combining those. You know, if we get one, we get the other. If we get one, we get a benefit somewhere else, right? So these are very nice kind of combinations of things. And again, if we pair this with the Delicate Tomb, that's going to give us even more chances to potentially even get multiple Ionic Traces on a single kill. Now, again, this mod specifically allows this build to not require Delicate Tomb. You can use other arc weapons because it can be any arc weapon giving you a chance to get that Ionic Trace. But again, specifically with Delicate Tomb, you can get multiple and really get some just crazy amounts of supers off of some kills. And our final kind of required mod here is going to be Spark of Shock. This is going to allow our arc grenades to jolt targets, which again, jolt is going to help us in multiple ways. Also kind of makes it into a nice build for potentially GMs and stuff that's going to have overloads down the line, as that jolt will allow overloads to be stunned. Now, final mod, again, pretty open. There's quite a few decent options. I'm also like, you know, if with running the Delicate Tomb again specifically, having this arc special or heavy ammo weapons create a blinding explosion while you're amplified could be very, very helpful. I think Spark of Beacons is an interesting one here as well. I've been running Spark of Resistance, again, just giving you basically more resistance when you're near enemies, as I do feel like that, again, can be a bit of a risk, but anything here is pretty much, this is pretty much just a completely open slot, up to you. Again, if you want something more survival, you can go there. You want something more aggressive, you can go there. This spot is pretty open. Now let's go ahead and talk about the artifact. The artifact is definitely not required for this build, but with some of the artifact mods this season, it's going to make it just that much better, so definitely worth looking into. The first mod that we're going to want to be using with this build is Overclock and Load. This will, again, allow us anytime that we have Amplified or have Bolt Charge, which is literally 100%. Like, there's almost no chance that we don't have either of these. Our arc weapons are going to be getting increased handling and reload speed, so just a nice, going to make our weapons feel that much better. Again, we're going to be running arc weapons anyway. Next mod we want to look at is Dielectric. This is going to allow for arc debuffed targets to grant more Bolt Charge, and if you do have the boost unlocked, and you can make sure that you have the boost active by using the Tome of Wants and making sure you have an active ritual here, that'll make that boost active once you have it unlocked. But that's going to do a couple things. That's going to allow us to get, again, even more Bolt Charge, which we've talked about multiple reasons that's going to be important, and just, again, more damage, more killing things. And also, if you get rapid defeats on arc debuff targets, it will spawn an Orb of Power and heal you. So again, more survival there as well, which is great. Next mod is going to be another way to get amplified. When we get maximum bolt charge, which again we're going to have a lot of bolt charge going through, we will become amplified and lightning bolts will deal more damage. So again, more damage and more survival through amplified and more speed through amplified. Like, it's all pairing together. Bolt charge, amplified. We will love both of those verbs this season. We love both of those verbs with our build, so this is just that much better. And our final mod in the last column is going to be Defibrillating Blast. This will allow for stunning a champion to grant maximum stacks of bolt charge. Now the second part is very important here. This will trigger an arc bolt that heals you and jolt combatants that it damages. And this is not worded in a way that makes any sense to me personally, but basically when you do have max stacks of bolt charge, that second thing will happen. It doesn't have to be based on stunning a champion. Whenever you get to the max stacks of bolt charge, it will trigger the arc bolt that will heal you and jolt combatants. So it doesn't have to, again, this is a very, very useful mod. Again, I don't feel like that's worded in a way that would make that clear, but anytime you get max bolt charge stacks and then use it, you will trigger that arc bolt that will heal you. So this is, again, a huge, huge way to get even more survivability in this build. Again, this artifact is not like required for the build, but it's here. We might as well use it, right? 100% is going to make it that much stronger. Now, in terms of mods on your armor itself, there's really not a whole lot of specifics that you absolutely have to have. I personally like Heavy Ammo Finder and Scout in most things that I'm doing in PvE, help my team out, get more heavy. The one thing you definitely do want to have is ARC Siphon. This is going to allow you to create orbs when you're getting multi-kills with your ARC weapons that you're going to be using. As for the boots, again, a lot of options here. You can have surges, you can have scavengers for more ammo and for more damage, but I would definitely recommend recuperation. This is going to allow you to get basically health packs with those orbs that you're going to be creating and any other orbs that your teammates will be creating. Recuperation is a very, very important mod, I think, in most builds, and especially in this one. It's going to just allow you to have more kind of just built-in healing, since we don't have something like Devour, we don't have something like Restoration, but this will kind of ease that fact pretty easily. As for gloves, I'm usually just running loader mods. My chest piece, I'm running resistance mods based on whatever I'm fighting. And the class item is pretty open. If I'm doing like a DPS setup, I usually like time dilation. If I'm kind of just more flexible, I do like to have special finisher and proximity ward. These are kind of like very utility-based mods, I would say. I think this, again, gives you a little bit of extra survival with finishers. I love Proximity Ward. I think it's a really, really underrated mod, and then also can make special for you and your team with your armor charge with special finisher. Again, last mod is pretty open too. Again, if you're doing damage phases, I like to have a damage swap. I'll have two separate loadouts, which I can actually show with like a different build down here. I will run we'll run Dime Dilations with damage phase loadouts, but again, with this specific loadout, I'm not usually focused on damage when I'm using Delicate Tomb. Again, I could potentially run this with like an arc heavy or something like that, or even with Queensbreaker, and then run it like a different arc special or something like that. But again, I think the important mods, like really the only two important mods, is Arc Siphon and Recuperation. Everything else is very flexible and dependent on what you're exactly fighting, basically, for the situation. And then stats are pretty much just your normal Warlock setup. 100 Resilience, you always want that. 100 Discipline, or as close as you can, is great. And 100 Recovery, or as close as you can, is also great. Again, higher uptime on grenades, awesome. Higher uptime on your Rift, and just more recovery, awesome. And again, your 30% damage reduction on Resilience. I would say in terms of like prioritization, I think Resilience is definitely number one, and then Recovery and Discipline are pretty equivalent. I'd say maybe a little higher on Discipline, but if you can get like even just tier 7 on these, I feel like you're going to be good. Like, try to kind of keep them even. You don't want, if you get tier 10 Resilience and tier 10 Discipline, but Recovery is like 2, it's not worth it. Like, just, get the tier 10 Resilience, get these to like at least like tier 7 each. That should be super duper easy, not a problem. Again, better armor stats you can get, even better. If you don't have good armor, go to the Helm and go to the Ward table. You can get some good armor stats there. Really, really fast and really, really easy. So you should be able to get to somewhat near this, not without too much of an issue. And that's all for today. I hope this video was helpful, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.